Hey, it's your boy. Today I got a big video to talk about because this is something that's been on the Overwatch community mind. It's the talk of the town, essentially. And that is, if 6v6 was better than 5v5. And I just want to come at this right off the bat and say I am a tank main. Holy shit, yo, I lagged, my bad if the video just like absolutely ate shit. I'm opening Overwatch right now so I can have it open in the background so I can do it a little easier. But, like I said, I'm coming at this as a tank main, specifically a Reinhardt main, and also a Winston main in the past. I honestly haven't played him much recently though because they kind of fucked him up in my opinion. I have, though, more recently, I've been playing damage and support. I've completely kind of quit playing tank, unless it's flex, because tank sucks right now. And anyone who plays this game would tell you that. And then, I want to say in the past, I also did play quite a bit of support. I didn't really play that much DPS, I kind of just played Reaper. Like, that's about it. However, I still feel like I can talk about this because while I'm not a consistent top 500 player or anything, I do have probably some of the I've got 1,100 hours total, 500 of them on Reinhardt, and then the rest is pretty spread out throughout every other character. So we're just gonna dive straight into the first point. The first thing I have to say that is significantly better in 6v6 versus 5v5 is tank. And I think everyone has said this, so I'm not going to go super deep into it. But tank is, if you're doing your job correctly as tank now in the current Overwatch 2, it is literally everyone just throws all of their shit at you and you get the short end of the stick, but that means you're doing what you're supposed to be. Which, like, sure, it sounds good if you're playing tank. It's like, oh, that makes sense, actually, because if I'm playing tank, I should be absorbing everything that the enemies do. And that sounds good until you realize when I say absorb, I mean that you're getting stunned, you're getting slept, you're getting booped, you're getting stunned again, you're getting slept, you're getting all of your abilities completely canceled, everything doesn't matter that you do. And that is tank right now. Like, it is horrible what tank feels like right now. And I've been saying this, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna say I told you so, because if you've checked my channel, pretty much when this game came out, I was very skeptical about 5v5. I'm not a competitive analyst or anything, but I was like, this will make some pretty big problems. I was like, what's gonna happen? The biggest concerns I had was what's gonna happen to the off tank, and what's gonna happen, aren't the one tank just gonna get targeted every single fight? I said that at the very beginning, and damn was I right, because not only are off tanks now struggling the hardest they've ever struggled, because they're either extremely broken, and that's when they're playable, or they are not ever played. So just for an example of this, in my past 50 games, I've been keeping track of the characters you run into as a tank, and 37 of them have been against Orisa, then 7 have been of Reinhardt, 3 have been Ramatra, 1 has been Roadhog, 1 has been Ball, and 1 has been Doomfist. So you can tell it's a lot, and I'm talking quick play. I'm not even talking competitive. Like, in competitive, it would make sense for that. But quick play, it should not be that, bro. People should be playing different characters. But it just shows you how OP Orisa is right now. Or Orisa, I don't remember how to say it. But, so the tanks that are suffering right now, let's just go over a few of them. Well, the tanks that are suffering because of the 5v5 change, we've got D.Va, who is suffering because she is no longer able to go off and dive, essentially. Well, she wasn't ever, you could do that, or you could just kind of protect your supports, and that was always really good. Like, I'm not a D.Va fan at all, but I always had a lot of fun doing that. Doomfist is obviously suffering, but he was never a tank before. But I think if this game, they need to make a 6v6 mode, because if this game had off tanks, I think Doom would be so good. I think people would love Doom, because then you could just dive into the backlines like a fucking maniac and then the rest of your 5 teammates are just gonna be pushing the front line. So while Doom is pushing them from the back, and maybe like, I don't know, like a Kiriko is with them or whatever, well, that's happening, your Reinhardt and the rest of your team is pushing from the front, and you can like sandwich them. I think that would have been really cool. I think that's a fucking cool ass comp. And I've always said in this game that one of my biggest concerns and problems with it is the fact that they keep removing freedoms from the player. Like we keep losing freedom, essentially, like of expression, where at the beginning you could pick anyone you wanted, literally anyone. You could have duplicates of characters. And then they said, okay, no more of that. That's fine. That one was kind of understandable. Then they had roll queue, which I understand was very nice for the majority of people, but once again, it just cuts out a bunch of like free choice. Like me personally, I loved playing pretty much only Reinhardt, and if I couldn't play Reinhardt, I'd play support. That was just how I did. And I loved that. But that got taken away. And then now we've gone from 6v6 to 5v5, which once again has just taken away player agency. Again, I don't know why this keeps happening, but they keep doing it over and over again. It's weird to me. Junker Queen would have been a fantastic off tank. I think her and Reinhardt would have been a really cool combo to see together. Orisa would be totally like different and totally more like viable in my opinion if she didn't only Jesus, you see my cat in the background? Yo, Orisa would be a lot less of a pain in the ass if you had 2 tanks. So when you're playing Reinhardt into Orisa, your other tank focuses on the Orisa while you can go past her. Because I know everyone's gonna be like, well, copycat, but if you just walk past the Orisa, you can just kill everyone. Brother, you cannot walk past Orisa. You literally can't, because she just spins you, fucking yeets a javelin at you, slams you into a wall, and then fortifies as soon as you try and charge back in. You just can't get past Orisa. Like, you just can't as Reinhardt. Certain tanks for sure, but not as Reinhardt. Ramatra would be a really fun tank to pair with a lot of other characters. Reinhardt, I think Reinhardt is literally only works as a character, like as a good character in 6v6. I don't think Reinhardt works in 5v5, because if you make him too aggressive, everyone's gonna be like, he's so oppressive, he just one taps me, he just gets in my face and I'm dead. And then if he's not like that though, then he's like how he's and I know people are like, well Ryan, there's been metas where Reinhardt is good. That's been like twice, and the rest of the time, everyone on their tier list just puts him in like B. They're like, oh, Reinhardt's always good. Reinhardt is not always good. This man is fucking ass like 99% of the time. And I know it's because I'm in the lower ranks, so people when I'm playing with, they don't know what they're doing. So it's up to me to put in like 50 times the fucking work, and I can't keep doing that. That shit is driving me insane. And once again, Reinhardt was built for 6v6. Like, Zarya and Ryan was like, that is the strat. Like, I loved doing that. Roadhog, once again, literally only works as an off tank. This character does not function as a main tank. Sigma, once again, only really works when you have, well, okay, he could work kind of well as just a single tank, but he's like one of very few. He's the only tank, I will say, that pretty much the entire time of Overwatch 2, he's been balanced. Like, he's actually just pretty good. Winston, very much so. I lost all interest playing Winston as soon as I wasn't an off tank, because that was the main thing that I loved about Winston, was I was just kind of my own like thing. I just kept myself alive. It's like I'm a DPS with a lot more health, and I'm like specifically focusing on their either snipers or healers, and that was a lot of fun, because as Winston, that's what I like to do. But now in Overwatch 2, the entire team is completely reliant on me, which is not fun at all. I've lost all interest in that. And then we've got Wrecking Ball, who literally, I think he, like I said with Doomfist, or not Doomfist, like I said with Winston, he only works with 2 tanks. I don't think Wrecking Ball will ever be a good or balanced character unless there's 2 tanks. And then Zarya is the exact same thing, where she is literally either that's what the pattern that you have noticed though from this, right? It's either they're extremely broken or they're bad, and that is all of tank. There's like 2 tanks that aren't like that, and I'd say it's Sigma and Ramatra, and Ramatra is just average. Like, he's sometimes really good, but he hasn't been bad right now. But that's just for the tank category. Like, you can, and that's me I have not, to be completely fair, I haven't played a bunch of, well, okay, actually, to be fair, I have played a lot. I haven't played a lot of Wrecking Ball. I haven't played a lot of New Orisa, because I just think she's boring. She's just a boring character. And that is not the only problem, though. You might be like, oh, okay, well, at least there's only, like, tank is only suffering. No, literally every single role is suffering. DPS feel like they can't kill anything because supports are immortal, and tank is getting healed by the supports who are immortal, which makes them even harder to kill because they're massive health pools. And DPS just feels bad because, and you can't balance DPS correctly anymore because some of these DPS were specifically designed to like counter a specific, like Reaper is very good against Winston still, but he was even better when it was Winston as an off tank. And the same can be said about a lot of these characters. Like Junkrat with anti-dive and shit, and there still is dive comp, but it's just not, he's not as good as he was, and a lot of the DPS can't kill anything, which is their entire job, which is, like, if you tried to tell somebody about Overwatch, and you're like, oh yeah, no, there's tank where you absorb a lot of damage, it's like, okay, that makes sense, and then, like, and there's support, which heals and, like, can do assists their team, essentially, it's like, yeah, that makes sense too, but then to damage, you're like, well, they don't do the most damage, but they're supposed to do damage, and they're not supposed to necessarily get all the kills either, but they can. Like, you can get kills, I guess, as well. Like, what the fuck? If I'm not an Overwatch player, I'm gonna be like, well, why would I play damage? It's just the worst version of tank. Which it isn't, to be fair. Damage is more fun than tank right now, but that's because tank is just shittily balanced. And then we've got support, which literally the support. This is the thing I think a lot of people. So you're gonna hear me a lot when I talk about this game saying support is overpowered, which it is. But I also don't necessarily blame the support players, because if they're not overpowered, they're fucking dog shit and they feel like shit to play. They feel just as bad as playing tank. Like, so it's either you make them super busted or you're just gonna feel bad because of the 5v5 design. Because in 6v6, you had another tank to peel away and help you as a support. In 5v5, you don't. This is up to you to save yourself, essentially, or your DPS, which, let's be honest, no one can rely on each other in this game, unless you're in a group. But they've lost that, and now they've lost. Now supports need to be super mobile, super tanky, super strong, can't die. That's just what they need to have fun, which has in turn ruined the entire game for both tank and DPS. Just, all of this goes back to 5v5, and that's why it makes me so mad, because I remember every single motherfucker on YouTube who is like, no, you guys are just looking back with rose-tinted glasses. 5v5 is better. It's fucking not. It is better for one thing, and that is if the game is perfectly balanced and you're a DPS player. If you're not a DPS player and the game isn't perfectly balanced, 5v5 is worse. Which, let's be honest, this game will never be balanced. It just won't. It's never going to be. There's always going to be some unbalanced shit. And not everyone plays DPS. I know the majority does, but not everyone plays DPS. And you might be like, well, if it was perfectly balanced, then tank would be fun too. No, but tank inherently is bad. If you're not an off tank, if you're not able to like switch how you play, tank in Overwatch 2 is literally, you just absorb cooldowns, you absorb damage, you absorb everything. You are the fucking sponge that soaks up everything. And Flats on one of the group up podcasts said something that I believe is just completely true, which is, as tank right now, you are just a support's puppet. The supports like heal you, you're completely reliant on them. It's like they're making you move around the field. And I know a lot of people are gonna be like, well, that's just the high rank. No, I'm in the mid ranks, and it's just like that. And I'm like I know that you're probably like, well, you're not that good, so, or you're not bad, you're not good, whatever, you're in the in-between, so it's weird for you. Yeah, I know it's like this at the low ranks too, because guess what? I play with my friends, and they also experience the exact same things that I experience, which is tank fucking sucks. My friend, my cousin, and my brother, both of them picked up tank for one day when Overwatch 2 like came out, like a month or two after it came out, and they quit immediately. They said this is boring, and that was when tank wasn't even being talked about as being bad. But tank has always been bad. If you're not picking the meta pick for this game, tank has sucked. And that's why I feel like I noticed this a lot earlier than everyone else, because I'm just a menace, and I just only play Reinhardt, and I pretty much only play quick play. So I'm just literally only playing Reinhardt. So on all these metas where like pros just who want to rank up, they switch it up, and they're good enough to switch to another character. Me, I've invested so much time into one character that I am just, if I'm not playing Reinhardt, it's over for me, bro. It's over for me. Well, okay, I used to be able to play Winston, but they took that away, and now I can't play Winston. Like, oh my god, it's so annoying. And that's not even the only thing. The other things that really make 5v5 worse, in my opinion, is the map design is like so clearly designed for a lot of the maps to have 2 tanks. Like, it just is. They've added some more cover, but that's about it. And you can't just do that. Like, Overwatch 2 does this thing where they just kind of introduce things and then they fix it later on. You can't do that, bro. The game is gonna suffer for that. And another very large problem with 5v5, in my opinion, is obviously the loss of those people. Like, so I was one of them at one point. I'm not anymore, but I used to have a 6 stack. I used to play competitive in a stack of 6 of my friends, and we had a fucking blast. And when Overwatch 2 got announced, we were super excited. We're gonna play it again, and then they announced that it's going to 5v5, and my entire friend group didn't want to play anymore because none of us wanted to kick another one of us out. Like, I didn't want to be like, hey man, sorry, you're out of here, off tank man. That's not, like, that's fucking lame. Those people suffered a lot, and they probably just quit, to be honest. Like, if I was an off tank main, bro, I would just quit Overwatch. I would have been like, you know what, all of my fucking Blizzard clearly doesn't like me. My friends aren't gonna like it if I'm the only fucking tank and I'm playing Winston or whatever. That must have actually really sucked. And like, I wasn't even a full, like, I can imagine the people who genuinely had to kick someone out of the group. Like, that would have been horrible. Our entire friend group just stopped playing, really. I'm the only one who does still play. And that's because I have an Jesus Christ. That's because I have an addiction. And I know I will say there is good stuff to 5v5 in idea. And I think there was a point where 5v5 was, I would say, on the same level as 6v6, which was when the game first came out in like that beta, all the tanks were strong. And that was the way it was supposed to be. The tanks were supposed to be like these big, strong destroyers, essentially. Like, I remember playing it, and I think Reinhardt had 650 health or something. Like, it was crazy. Now, if I go into the training range, I know it's going to be, hold on, I'm going to check. I know it's going to be even lower health than normal, but I'm pretty sure he's at 500 or 550 now. So he's lost 100 health. Yeah, and then in open queue, he's fucking 400. That's the other thing. This completely ruined open queue, and I love open queue. That's the mode I play, and I know everyone's like, open queue bad though. Why do you play open queue? It's not real Overwatch. Bro, I just preferred being able to switch characters, like, to whatever I want. So, of course, I'm pissed when in open queue, now all of a sudden, tank balance is completely fucked. Like, one of the things I loved about Overwatch was there wasn't a defined meta. Like, sometimes the meta was 5 fucking tanks and 1 healer, or 5, like, my favorite memories of this game are when I would play games with all 6 of my friends, and in competitive, we would do strategies that are only possible because we have 6 people. Like, where I would have all 6 of them, or all 5 of them, playing supports, and just keeping me up as Ryan. And I would absolutely slam, and no one knew how to stop it, because how the fuck would you stop that? Like, you just gotta kill all the supports, but I'm out there annihilating everybody before that was even able to happen. And I love stuff like that. That was so fun. And now that was completely taken away with role queue. And now, even in open queue, I can't do that because all the fucking tanks, like, half of them are complete shit because they just nerfed all their health. Like, I remember, I think it's Doomfist has like 300 health, which is absurd. That's literally, he can get one shot. Like, what are we doing? How can a tank get one shot? And Reinhardt's only 150 above him, and he's like, Reinhardt's like 5 times bigger. So, like, that's another thing that 5v5 completely ruined, was open queue. I know people are like, well, you shouldn't care that much about open queue, but that is why I played this game. Like, I played this game for the freedom of, like, choosing whatever I wanted. And it's been in the game for so long now that that is just what I play. I prefer it that way. And I know now my entire opinion is probably invalidated. I still do play. I just play competitive open queue. I don't play normal competitive. So, but I do still play role lock like quite often. In fact, that's the majority of my my time is spent in quick play role lock, because competitive sucks. Let's be honest right now, competitive is in a bad state. But I just had to say it, that was annoying. Oh, and then another thing that 66 I would say did significantly better is the teamwork. And I know Overwatch was trying to move away from like being this like team-based game, because if you didn't have a team, it did suck a lot of the time. But the other thing is that's like what made Overwatch special. I'm not trying to play, or one of the things that made Overwatch special, I'm not trying to play a Valorant type game where I can clutch up by myself. I was trying to play a game where I am an important and integral part of the team, who I need to also help out with clutching and stuff. And even if those people are random, it made it a lot of fun, because you would have to play with, like, oh, I don't know, like, at least for me, I always enjoyed playing with one tricks. I know everyone used to hate one tricks. I don't know if they're still hated, but like, let's be honest, if you're playing Overwatch, you probably have a character that you really enjoyed and you like more than everyone else. Being a one trick is literally just you taking that to the extreme and only playing that character. So sometimes, you know, you'd get in a one trick game with a monkey player or something, and you'd have to adapt your entire team in the voice chat if you're playing competitive. If you're not playing competitive, good luck. But if you're playing competitive, your entire team would be like, okay, well, let's just play a really good dive. And that was always what I enjoyed. I loved playing based on what I had, like forcing myself to play in ways I didn't normally do, because I thought it was interesting. And it's the teamwork in general. Like, I think that is a very unique concept to Overwatch. Like, the only other shooters I can really think of that have a very large emphasis on like team play, other than like, you know, like Team Fortress 2 and a bunch of like really old games, is like Battlefield. And Battlefield sucks now. Like, Battlefield is a bad game, but Battlefield was also pretty, like, if you were wanting to have the most fun in it, you would kind of work with your squad that you were with. And there's not many games that are genuinely like, here is how you or here's your, sorry, oh my god, it's like, here's your team, you got to work with them. And Overwatch still has that, but a lot of it has been lost. I think a lot of the teamwork side has kind of been swapped, and it makes it a lot less fun when you're playing with your friends, because now it's just like playing Valorant or something else. But the difference is, in Valorant, at least there's no bullshit abilities. Like, I'm not the biggest Valorant fan, but I can confirm to you that there's some abilities that are kind of dumb. There's none that are actually like bullshit, like a lot of Overwatch abilities are. Like, I feel like half of Overwatch's abilities are just actually silly garbage. But the thing that made that worth dealing with was the fact that you could play with a team and kind of just cancel shit out like that. Like, let's say with Kiriko's cleanse, what you would do with a full stack of 6 or a full stack of 5, you could do is just play a bunch of characters who just simply will not use effects. Like, you're not gonna have an Ana, you're not gonna do any of that type of stuff. You're just gonna play for picks, essentially, like a bunch of Widows and like maybe some characters like that, maybe a Doomfist, stuff like that. And you could do really interesting team comps. And I know, like, this is something that a lot of the community probably never did experience, because I understand, like, completely, especially now that a lot of my friends have kind of moved on and gone to college and shit. They don't play games as often, so I'm left usually playing alone. Like, in my game that I've spent some of the most time playing, that being Destiny, I'm a solo player. I completely play everything by myself, so I really do get it when it's like a lot of the game is based off of team play. It does suck when you don't have anyone to play with, but I still think that that's more preferable than Overwatch becoming generic, because that's been my biggest concern, is this game is becoming very generic. Like, it's pretty samey to a lot of other games out there. The thing that still differentiates it is the characters. Still, they're very different from a lot of other characters, and their abilities are always crazy. But from a a gameplay, not like gameplay like as in like character gameplay, but like as a game design, it was a very different game. Like, you had modes like 2CP, which were very one-sided for sure sometimes, and weren't loved by everyone, but I think it was super interesting. There's not many other games that have something Like there's modes like that, yeah, but there was never made like how Overwatch made it. And I feel like that's being lost. Like even, let's see, if I go look at the like new characters' abilities, I don't want to say the magic is being lost, but it kind of does feel like the magic is being lost. Like we've got, specifically with the healers, I know it's kind of hard to make, or supports, to make a support like interesting, but like we got Life Weaver, but other than that, every single support they've added in Overwatch 2 I think is pretty boring. Like we've got Kiriko, who literally just like is a cleanse character, which sounds cool until it starts. And that's the other thing. I know I've talked about it a lot, but support is so broken right now, bro. It's so upsetting. Like, and like I said, I understand why it is, because if they weren't broken, they would be absolutely dog shit, and I'm sure that fucking sucks. But also, I feel like at this point, we need to just start rotating at least, so at least when the support role is absolute dog shit, at least the tank role can have some fun finally, or at least the DPS role can be broken for a bit. I really do think, to be honest, I think this next season is going to be very crucial to Overwatch 2. I think if they don't start making some better balance choices, a lot of people are going to be very disappointed. And I know that sounds like it's just, oh, you're just mad and you're saying that people are going to be disappointed. But I genuinely am starting to believe that people are becoming disappointed. I mean, there's a fucking argument if the entire point of this game, or at least a major portion of it, being, what's it called? Being the switch to 5v5, is even, like, if it even does anything, if it's even good. Or if it does, everyone knows it does something, but if it's even a good choice. And I think pretty much every tank player is going to tell you no, it was not a good choice. But I think if you're a healer, I think your eyes are temporarily blinded by the happiness that you've been granted by just being significantly better everyone else. I feel like if you're a DPS, you're probably about 50-50. And I feel like there's also still some healers who are like, man, yeah, I kind of preferred when I had a character to help out when I was getting dove, like the D.Va. Like I said, like D.Va, you could protect your backline, and same with Winston. And that was part of the whole fun, was like for both roles, like you would work in tandem essentially. And I think Overwatch 2 loses, not all of that, but it loses quite a bit of it, honestly. I do think we've lost like 99% of what made all these roles so special. Like, I think they've been kind of replaced. Is there anything else about 5v5 I want to talk about? Let me exit really quick. Oh yeah, and obviously if you had a friend who you like to play tank with, because that's one of the other fun things about Overwatch, even if you only do have one friend to play with, you can still have a really fun time, because it's like, oh, me and my friend, we can just play Ana and Reinhardt, and we'll do really good, or Ana and Genji, or Mercy and Bastion, or something. Like, you can play all these, like, duo comps that are really fun if you're working together with each other. But that is also the whole section of that has been completely lost, which was my favorite, which was the tank synergy, where you would be like, alright, you're playing with your friend, you're like, alright, you play Winston, and I play D.Va, and we dive them. We get our team to play like Lucio and who else was the fucking dive support? I feel like Mercy no, Mercy wasn't. Who the fuck was it? Was it Moira? I don't know. It's been so long. I don't play dive anymore. Like I said, I only play Ryan. And then you'd get your team to play like Genji and maybe it was Ana. No, because she can't dive. I don't know. It was one of the other dive supports. And then you get like a Genji and a Tracer. And you play this crazy dive comp. If your team works together, you're going to annihilate the enemy team unless they start working together. And that's a whole thing that's completely gone now, in my opinion. Especially with the one-on-one tanks, like the two tank comps. Like I said, I think Doom Ryan would be such a fun comp to run. Like, I think that could be so cool, because you just do this whole thing of like squishing your enemies essentially. Each tank has their own little support. And then your DPS can kind of just roam free, like be up on high ground. It could be snipers, it could be Genji, you can do whatever, and you just squish, like you squash them down. But a lot of the freedom of expression has been lost, especially with tanks, because of the switch to 5v5. And they just, like I said, they were fine. Like tanks, I think this is the reason why nobody was really talking about this for a while, was because for the first like season, tank was pretty good. Like they had like 650 health. They were absolutely broken. Well, okay, absolutely broken is crazy, but like they'd have some crazy ability or something usually. But then season 2, and I think honestly it was season 1. I think the only time where tank was good was like the first few weeks of Overwatch 2 and the beta. But I think the difference is after that they started just giga buffing like 2 tanks to just be extremely good, whether it was Zarya, whether it was Ramatra or Orisa or Doomfist, or for the 2 weeks that Doomfist got to be good, or Reinhardt for the month he got to be good. And people's eyes were kind of blinded because they would just like in the high. Obviously, the only people talking about this are the people who are very invested in this game, and most of the people who are very invested in this game only play competitive, like streamers and stuff. So they only play the tanks who are good, or they are simply significantly better than everyone else, so they can just play whatever the fuck they want. But the problem is for like the middle ranks, that sucks. Like the entire when one character's broken, it's like, okay, well I can't dedicate my entire life to this game. I can't spend 8 hours a day here, but I can spend like 2 or 3 a day playing some Reinhardt for funsies. But when Reinhardt sucks for like 4 months, I don't play this game, and that's about it. Oh, and well, no. To wrap it up, 5v5 has good points, but I think they're massively outweighed by a lot of the bad stuff that comes with 5v5. I think 6v6 is better. I'm gonna say it. I think it's better for literally every role and rank. I think it's just better. The balance makes more sense. And the thing that people bring up is like, oh well, double shield, right? They're like, double shield was so broken though. Double shield was broken. 2 tanks was not broken. The way you fix double shield is you actually balance your game, which Blizzard did not do for that entire time. They completely abandoned the game. So that's why double shield would have been fine if it was like a 3-month meta. Like people would have been like, oh okay, it was just one of those metas, like how it is sometimes. But double shield was there for like 2 years, and that's why everyone started to get mad. If they had simply balanced the game, especially now, as much as I do hate a lot of what Blizzard does other than balance, and sometimes I even do hate their balance, they've done a pretty decent job recently of balancing their game. Like the game, well, sometimes saying that with Orisa in the game right now and all the supports is kind of crazy, but like a lot of the tanks are at least balanced, like on level of being shit. Like all of them are pretty shit, but at least they're all pretty similar levels of shit, except for the one really overpowered one usually. And then supports are all really godlike, but at least they're all on the same level. And same can be said for DPS. Most of the DPS are at least good. Some of them are bad, but most of them are pretty alright at least. But I would have loved to see a world where we kept 6v6, but we kept developers that did actually like change it and like actually balance their game. And the other thing I would say, if that still didn't work, then the one easy fix that you could do, instead of deleting an entire fucking player from the game and a whole role, would be just make tank split into 2. Make it, you can pick a main tank or an off tank. I know you might be like, well, that's going to split the queues a lot. Yeah. And I'd rather have that. And even if it did, you could even have it where you have, and when you first load in, one of you can pick a main tank, and then the other one picks an off tank. Or, fuck it, you just don't do that, and you just balance your game. Like, if Orisa didn't have that crazy shield, like, we wouldn't, in the current stats that we have now, tank, we wouldn't have double shield, because it's just not the best meta. Like, double shield would suck right now, especially with characters like Bastion being so broken. Double shield would be bad. And I think it would be totally fine to just have what I think Blizzard absolutely has to do. And I've seen people saying they should delete open queue. That's fucked up. That's my hometown. And also, I'm pretty sure it's more popular overseas. Like, I'm pretty sure it's the more popular competitive mode. But they shouldn't replace open queue. What they should do is do an arcade mode, or do a little test, like, you know, how they sometimes do modes. And maybe for Overwatch's birthday, just add back 6v6 and be like, here, we're going to try this out. We've heard a lot of people complaining. We're going to try it. And if you guys like it, maybe we'll move back. And I'm sure when they would do that, a lot of people would probably be like, man, I like 5v5 more. But at least they could compare. Because right now, we can't even compare 6v6. We can play custom games, but that's obviously not the same experience. I think that's just the way it is. I genuinely do think that if we did put 6v6 back, though, I think a lot of people would prefer it. I know a lot. I know like 90% of tanks would prefer it. I think many DPS players would prefer it, and I think less, but still a lot. Like if I had to guess, I would say 90% of tank players would prefer that. I would say, and I feel like you'd also get a lot of people coming back because, like I said, my friend who was an off-tank player literally just left. He was like, "Oh, okay, well, I can't really play this game anymore because they're taking out my role." Which, yeah, those people would probably come back and be like, "Okay, well, I can actually play the role I wanted to play. Awesome." And then you would have probably, I'd say, like 75% of DPS because, let's be honest, DPS for the past 6 seasons have been pretty shit as well. Like, I'm not even a DPS player, and I can admit that. Like, Genji has been horrible for a long time in everything except for high-ranking competitive. And then the supports, I feel like, would be the closest to, like, 50-50. I feel like 50% of the supports would be like, man, but when I think back on Overwatch 1, I was just constantly getting dove. But then I think the other 50% are going to be like, well, that's happening now, but at least in 6v6 I had a like teammate that could dive, like help me, like counter that dive. But compared to now, where that's just not true. But I think they should try it, honestly. If they don't, I'm going to be shocked because I think a lot of people are very upset right now with Blizzard because I think anytime Orisa is meta, the game is bad, and Orisa is very meta right now, and Bastion is meta. Like, the game is in a bad state right now. The streamers are always like, "Oh, the game should take skill." This is probably the least skillful meta I have ever seen in my life. Like, one of the least skilled in all of gaming. At least in the lower ranks, like maybe the high ranks, it's still pretty like high skill, but bro, I feel like if I just queued up for Orisa for like 15 days straight, I feel like I'd be top 500 without even like, and I'm pretty bad at Orisa, but she is genuinely busted. Like when I'm playing quick play, sometimes I'll just lose my mind because I've been playing tank so long and someone counterpicks my Reinhardt and they pick Orisa one too many times. I just start counterpicking every single time. Oh, and that's the other thing. I just completely forgot to mention a whole nother section. The counterpicking is so bad, and that is, there's no way you can argue that that isn't because of 5v5. Because the strat is now, if there was 2 tanks, like I said, the counterpicking is your other tank then can keep going. Like, even if you're counterpicked Reinhardt into Orisa, your other tank can help you out. Maybe they pick Zarya, and then you're gonna start slapping. You're gonna start slapping at Orisa, and there's ways to get around it. But now, all you have to do to win a lot of fights, so this is the important thing about Overwatch 2. If your tank dies, that fight is over probably. Like, there's no chance you're coming back from that usually. So the meta is you focus on that one tank, and if they're dead, then you win. Well, not the meta, but the way that you can play is that. And if you can do that, you're going to win. And the easiest way to do that is obviously just to counter swap to whatever the other person's playing. If they're better than you, oh, just switch to Orisa. Oh, this Reinhardt is absolutely annihilating your entire team. Play Orisa. Oh, you're playing Sigma and you're doing really, really good. Oh, okay. Then how about you just switch to Orisa? That is the other thing, is Orisa. You know how they said they wanted to remove hard counters? They kind of did, except for with Reinhardt, because my god, does Reinhardt still get hard countered by like 90% of the roster, but they did remove hard counters, but in turn they made it so every single tank is countered by Orisa. Pretty much every single one. I saw a post on Reddit today talking about like Orisa is the reason that 5v5 sucks, not that 5v5 actually sucks. I just completely disagree. I think a lot of the problems from 5v5 is what makes Orisa so good, is because she's just the easiest counter swap, like low skill counter swap character in the game. And she's going to stay like that. And until they do 6v6, I think, because like I said, right now, you just lose. If you go Reinhardt into Orisa, you're just losing. Like, there's no way around it. You just lose. And I hate that they said that when they first were launching this game. They were like, we're getting rid of hard counters. And I immediately was skeptical of that. I remember I made a video, I was like, you can't do that, because how are characters like Pharah gonna work? And like, there's so many characters that are so broken that you have to have a hard counter to them. And I was right, bro. They're still hard counters. In fact, they made it worse. Orisa, literally everything about Orisa is made to be anti-Reinhardt. I don't know what the fuck they have against Reinhardt there, but literally every single ability she has is like, it's made to go against Reinhardt. It's fucked up. But like I said, that is a whole nother thing that is also completely from 5v5, is the fact that counterpicking is genuinely the meta now, because you have one-on-one tank battles. If one tank switches to the tank that's better than that tank in that matchup, they're gonna win. If they're the same skill level, or even if they're a little lower than you, they're gonna win. And that's super dumb. That's one of the worst things. All right, and now for real, that's about it. Later.